talk while Jenny figures out how to get us live on her Instagram. Today we're going to talk about our food stories. So I think we probably both have something to say about like what that means for us. But essentially it's a way of saying like how we've related to food throughout our lives, like what's kind of created like this belief system that what's happened to create this belief system that we have about food and our relationship to food. And for me, it's like, how has that impacted me, the way that I eat, the way that I like want to be a nutrition practitioner, all those things.
Yeah.
Kind of like the stories that I cycle through about my relationship with food and how I relate to food kind of encompasses all those things. So I don't know if you have like.
Yeah, I think for me, when I started the program at NUNM, it was so eye-opening because I never really thought I had a food story or had this relationship to food where it was shaping my everyday choices and shaping how I lived and like making ripples throughout my entire life. And I think people don't recognize how powerful food can be, even if they think they have like a good relationship with food. When you start diving deeper into it, it's like, oh, it's kind of scary that it's influencing you that much.
Well, and that's so complex, like the idea of having like a good relationship with food. It like adds this layer of like morality.
Mm-hmm.
Like my relationship with food is good and yours is bad. So that makes me better because I have a good relationship and you don't. Yeah. So it's like all of these terms, like I want to just say that we're using them to the best of our ability, but like having a good relationship with food, I'm probably going to say that as a positive thing, but I think that it doesn't necessarily have to relate to like what necessarily you're putting in your body. It's more about how you think about what you're putting in your body. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's like my good relationship with food doesn't mean that I'm eating kale salad all the time. It means that
how do you feel when you're eating food?
Yeah, it's more about like the self-talk that's going on when I'm eating food, after I'm eating food, and all of those things.
What's your first memory with food? Like a good
first memory?
A good memory.
Oh, okay. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, honestly, is when I was growing up, my dad would always make Swedish pancakes when I had slumber parties.
I love that.
Yeah, that was huge. That was like put the lingonberries in and like homemade whipped cream and maple syrup. So that's like a lot of like culture. So like a lot of Swedish cooking.
Wait, are you Swedish?
I am Swedish. Well, technically, my dad's from Sweden.
Cute.
Yeah, so like all like types of Swedish cooking things. And then I remember making like flambe steak, peppercorn steak. And I don't remember exactly how to do it, but there's some kind of like liquor that goes into the pan or wine or something that like cooks this big fat. I don't remember how. It's like passed down from my grandpa to my dad to me. But yeah, those types of things are like my first positive food memories.
Right.
I'd say that.
Good.
What about you?
I don't know. Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. Classic. Chicken nuggets.
Kraft mac and cheese and I mean top raw with eggs.
With eggs.
Pretty standard. But
upgrading it with the eggs.
You know, and my mom, if she's still here on the line.
Oh, she's here.
She's here. She's here to stay, Mom.
Got 3 different angles going on here.
I know.
It's kind of crazy.
Taught me about putting the egg in and you mix it in like really fast and it just tastes so good and was so simple. And
hot and sour soup.
Yeah, exactly. But also just my stepdad loved to cook and he still loves to cook to this day. And pad thai noodles, Thai noodles. He would cook for us and that was like a big thing. And that was fun. So those are my first memories, I think. Yeah.
Are people saying hi? Oh, Kendra's here. You hot. Thanks, Anna.
Oh, Chloe. Hi.
Hey, Chloe.
Chloe's over here.
Oh my God, we've got friends in the house. Yay.
Welcome, everyone.
Okay, I think we should get into it.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your food story?
Sure. I guess.
How about let's do it this way. Why don't you talk about some ways that your food story has shaped the way that you interact with food now, and then kind of trace it back to where that kind of happened in childhood, youth, whatever.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think for me, it really started, well, right now, the way I view food is not how I viewed food a year ago. Like, it's totally different. Like, today I view food as this is the fuel that takes me to another day. And like you said earlier, it's for me about the mindset and how I'm feeling. Like, I can eat a cupcake every day, and if I'm feeling great, then that's great, you know? And I think I remember in class the other day, our teacher was like, so what if your client wants to eat a cupcake every day? And some people like shivered
Yeah.
They're like,
Oh,
you're like, how? Like, eat a cupcake.
how do I help you?
Yeah. How dare you eat a cupcake every day? But I just shifted so much because a year ago I was so restrictive, that mentality, because I have psoriasis and having an autoimmune condition. Food is one way it can be triggered when you are stressed out. And I would have moments where I would be, out celebrating someone's birthday party, eat all the cake, and be fine. Versus like it's finals week and then I have one piece of chocolate and I'm like inflamed.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of like where I am right now. But I think for me, when I found out that I had psoriasis and started changing my diet, that restrictive mentality took over everything.
Yeah.
And I have been in moments where I was like scared to eat food, because of how it was going to affect me. So,
and fear is not how you want to put food in your body.
No, and like what I've been learning so much recently, especially in school, is that food is enjoyable and like it needs to be a fun experience, and we should never ever just be like, no, like to food. That's like how we live to see tomorrow. I think it's just so important to like enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also complicated, and I think having like any kind of allergy, autoimmune condition, anything that's affecting your health that can be controlled with food, that just adds like a total new layer to everything.
Yeah,
it's like it further complicates it, and it becomes hard because you're like, well, I'm doing this because it's healthier for my body, not because I'm trying to lose weight, but then it's still like this level of restriction.
Totally, and the moment it really switched for me was I was trying to restrict so much, but was still reacting to stuff, or was just still having symptoms. And
it was like the stress about restricting food
was more than actually just eating the gluten and the dairy. So then I was just eating gluten and dairy, and I was like, this is so fun, and had more joy.
Yeah.
Like
I remember that night you had pizza, you were like, oh my God, I have a story about pizza. Like, I think I can't eat it, but I'm eating it. And the next day you were like, and I'm fine. That was amazing. That was actually really beautiful to see.
Thanks. Yeah, and I had a quesadilla a few months before that. I mean, granted, I took a dairy digest enzyme, but that was just to help me. But when I had that quesadilla, I felt like I was high.
Yeah.
Like it was a drug. Like the cheese, I love cheese, and I used to write I love cheese on my assignments when I was a kid. Like I love cheese. It's just like graffiti everywhere, tagging everything. And when I had that quesadilla, I was like, holy shit, like this is good cheese I've never had.
Your graffiti tag is just like cheese girl.
Cheese girl was here.
Cheese girl was here.
So it's just insane how much joy I got from that. And like I was so giddy after I ate that quesadilla. I was like, this is crazy. Like,
so how do you find the balance now? Like,
oh my God,
how is this shaping out right now with all of these things you've learned over the past year?
Yeah, for me, it's just like I'm still in the thick of it, because I think with school and just like having a lot of different life things happening right now it's hard for me to focus on not being stressed out while eating.
Yeah.
So I think for me, what I'm focusing on is the mindful, intuitive part of eating and calming my nervous system down so that I can actually assimilate the nutrients I'm eating, because I already have a weakened digestive tract.
Yeah.
So that's like what I'm doing right now. Yeah. But what about you?
God, there's so many directions I could take this. Like, which way do we want to go? I feel like my life is a food story, to be honest. And it's part of what's led me here. It's part of why I'm here is all of these things that have happened in my life that have led me on this path to nutrition. First, it was like a whole childhood, adolescence, young adulthood of being really overweight. And like, I use those terms loosely. Like technically, if you were to calculate my BMI, I was in the obese category for most of my life. Like I weigh the same now that I did when I was 11, which is really crazy.
How tall were you back?
I was probably like 5. I grew pretty fast. I was probably like 5'6" when I was 11. 5'5", 5'6".
Tall.
And I'm like 5'8" now.
Yeah.
And I weigh like, within a 10-pound range, the same. So that's really crazy. And so for me, like my whole life was about food, and layered on top of that, it was about restriction. And restriction never really works in the long term. And I think like my food story kind of developed from this, like, I always say that I like came out of the womb kind of chubby. It's just like the way that I was born. I was just like, I was a really cute kid. Like no one would have ever thought I was like overweight when I was like really little, but it just like was part of my genetics, and it was like just it's kind of the way my mom was, and it's just kind of the way I was born. And then I do think though that I would have kind of like naturally grown out of it, like through sports and all those types of things. But, and I know my mom's probably watching this, and this is not my mom's fault, but my parents both, when they like, you know, got my percentile from the doctors, they were worried. So they were doing things to try and like help me lose weight.
Like any parent would.
Like any parent would. And I want to clarify that because this is not something that my parents did or that I'm angry about or upset about, but it's something that like societally we have just like decided like kids who are overweight like automatically need to lose weight. But my parents were feeding me healthy, and like I was eating like generally healthy, and if you really talk to a doctor, and I think my mom did, like it wasn't really that concerning. Like,
right.
You know, I was kind of like steadily just increasing. And so, but yeah, basically I kind of was like put on this path of like lose weight when I was young. I would say it started when I was like maybe 10 or 11. And what that did, and this is kind of what created my more negative story with food, is that created like this guilt and shame around eating.
Right.
And so then it was like, okay.
And that was what your doctor had said?
I can't remember exactly. Like, I think that, I mean, I was like high in the percentile. Like, it was one of those things where if it kept increasing, it would be something to be concerned about, basically. Yeah. But it wasn't necessarily like negatively. I wasn't like at risk for type 2 diabetes or anything like that. But yeah, so then all of like the dieting and the weight loss camps and all those things, and just like media in general, what they did is they created all of this like shame and guilt around food and eating. So then it was this thing that I was doing like in hiding. So that's when like the whole like eating disorder, like binge cycle started. Was like probably like junior high was like the thoughts. I remember they were very pervasive. And then high school, like more later in high school, was like the full-blown eating disorder.
What did you find was influencing those thoughts mostly? Like, was it the media? Was it your friends?
Oh God, it was everything. It was like the media influencing my friends. It was rejection from boys. It was like not being picked first for sports teams. It was like so much shame around my body.
Because you were feeling like it was because of your body.
Yeah, I felt like it was because of me. Like I had no self-control, and I just like ate more than everyone, and that's kind of where the whole like idea that like I had a higher appetite. And I mean, that could be partially true, but that story started there for sure, right? And I had this really crazy realization like about a year ago, because I always like, my food story was just like, I just have this relationship with food that's weird. Like I love food, I love eating, I eat more than other people, I think about food more, like that was my story. Like all these things, like I'm crazy about food, it's why I can't lose weight, blah, blah, blah.
Which is ironic because like that's healthy. Like we should love food.
I know. We should love food. It's true, but it was because it was associated like with my body. Like if anyone thin, like ate the way I did or had, you know, like it wouldn't. No one would think about it.
Yeah.
But because I like dealt with weight issues when I was younger, it was this thing that was, you know, kind of shamed. But yeah, I remember having this realization where I was like, I created all of this, like I thought I just like had this bigger appetite. And what I realized was that because all this shame and guilt around food started when I was really young, I learned to like eat when I could and to like binge eat basically and to eat in hiding. And so all of those habits started like when I was in those formations, like young, I'm talking like, I think I remember this like 8, 9, 10, like going into the cupboards and then hoarding all the junk food and like taking it up to my room and eating it all. And then my parents would come home and be like, who ate all the food? And I would lie about it. It's like,
yeah. A little elf came in.
Yeah, right. And so all of that started because of thinking that my body was wrong. And then that whole thing carried over until my later years. So like I didn't really get a hold of like my overeating, binge eating like habits probably until after college. Like I would say until I was 23, 24. Yeah. So it was a really long process.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so interesting. So like I definitely, when I work with clients, and for anyone who's watching who deals with this, I would definitely look at like your past experiences to kind of like pinpoint,
Yeah.
where did you decide that you, like, where was that formed, that idea of like how you relate to food, and if you're like out of control or in control,
Right.
or
especially during your childhood years.
During
like,
your childhood.
what was being programmed into you, you know, and it wasn't even that what was happening around you, especially like with your parents. It wasn't that they were intending that.
no,
right?
not at all.
It was just the subconscious, I think, message for you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what did Chloe say?
I feel like it has been ingrained in us to rush while eating since a younger age, before work, school, etc. And I see how it impacts my relationship with food now. I find myself rushing often, and I'm only aware of it when I really think about it in the moment, which doesn't happen often. Thoughts, recommendations? Oh my God.
I have so much to say on this.
Yeah.
Because I eat
Standing up,
so fast.
shoveling food. Yeah.
And my mom's still here probably. Like, I did learn it from her because I learned some of it from her because she does eat fast. We both eat really fast. Like, sometimes we eat as if it's going to be our last meal. Like, oh my gosh, I need to get this all in right now. And that's an interesting way to view that meal, because if you just take your time and go slower, it's going to be much more enjoyable and last longer, which is how it should be. And then what I was going to say is that when I lived in LA, I worked on set on like commercials and music videos, and we'd have like walking lunches and like working lunches basically. And our lunch time was just so fast that I just remember that was like how we ate, was so fast. And ever since then, I think it just kind of ruined me, because now I just associate. It's like
this habit.
It's a habit now.
Into your
it's
brain.
wired. I'm like, if I want to get stuff done, I have to eat fast.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to. Oh my God! I just watched A Chef's Table, and she's a monk, and she cooks food for the monastery.
Mm-hmm.
You should watch it. I think you would really like it. She just talks about like what food means to them in this whole sphere of the universe. Like, and it's just such an important way to bring people together. And also just to get closer to yourself. And the fact that like I'm eating food and scarfing it down so fast, I'm doing myself a disservice. I mean, I don't eat slow at all still.
I mean, the thing about what we're talking about here really is bringing mindfulness into eating, and that's a really hard thing to do. Like, it's basically practice and repetition. So it's like meditating, you know, when we're trying to kind of catch those negative thoughts in action, like when they're coming into our mind, and release them or flip them. I mean, that's practice. And it's the same with eating, and eating mindfully and eating slower. Like, you have to bring a lot of intention to it. And it's important for so many levels. Like, it's important to appreciate your food, to spend time with it. Like, those are great habits. It's also really important for your digestion.
Exactly. Yeah, to actually prepare the juices to break down the food. I
mean, a lot of digestion is occurring in our mouth. Like, all of the primary digestive enzymes are in your saliva, and chewing is a huge part of it. So it's important for that, and I think it's important for joy, and bringing more joy into your life and more peace. And I eat really fast too, and I've noticed that. And I was actually out to dinner with Alicia, and I don't think she's on here, but she'll watch the replay. But we went to a yoga class, and then we went to Prasad, that vegan place downtown. And I got this like big, beautiful like noodle bowl with almond sauce, like veggie noodles and tempeh. And like, we were so hungry because we had just come out of yoga. And she said something like, my mom told me I should eat more mindfully as we're like shoveling food in our face. And I was like, oh, you know, I've been getting that message recently too. So I really tried to like slow down and put my fork down and just like fully chew my bites and really think about it. And I ended up like getting halfway through the meal, and I was like, whoa, I'm really full.
It also affects that too.
And I never box up my food. Like, I mean, hardly ever. It depends how big it is. But yeah, it was really interesting. I was like, wow. And it was like such an enjoyable experience. And like, we were chatting and taking our time.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I've been doing recently, because if I'm eating by myself and not with someone else, I'll be on my phone or like on my computer. And so I've just been flipping my phone over, like putting it away, to just literally look at my plate of food and just with my eyes start that digestive process, so your body sees it.
Is where it starts.
Yeah.
The smell,
The smell.
senses.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with your senses.
It does, and so I just make sure I'm fully present, and then I also like to, if I'm gonna go above and beyond, I like to say like a little prayer, or like thanks for everyone involved, like to get this food on my plate, and that allows me to really take a moment to just pause, and then I'll start eating and try to chew like at least 10 times. I eat so fast.
She tries to chew. I'm surprised you never choke.
I know.
If it means anything, I don't feel like you eat that fast.
Oh, thank you.
Here.
You're so sweet. Oh, it's Jenna.
Oh, hey, Jenna. Love your vulnerability. I love that our generation is becoming aware of this, so hopefully we don't subconsciously pass it on to our kids. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Agree.
So true. Amen to that.
We totally pass food stories and trauma and body image issues down, and like that has been something I've thought about so much. And I hear like with women, they're like, I don't want my children to have to go through the same things I did when it comes to like body image and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, that's really important. If you want to have kids, like really kind of like check in with yourself. Like,
yeah, like can you actually pass down some habits that are going to be beneficial? But the thing is like a lot of people end up having kids and aren't necessarily in the perfect place themselves, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they make it work regardless.
Totally.
But that is definitely a goal of mine, to just at least be able to work out things within myself that will definitely benefit, which will be mindful eating. Like I think mindful eating is gonna be like save all.
It really is. Yeah.
Because it just incorporates like basically meditation, and you're gonna digest your food. You're gonna become more aware of where it's coming from, and then you're gonna be able to just live more vibrantly because you've created a relationship with the food.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think something else I was thinking about that I want to talk about is like, I think people can also have a food story that kind of makes eating healthy or eating well or eating for wellness like this struggle.
Yeah, right.
And not necessarily a lot of people that we surround ourselves in, because we're in like this bubble of nutrition.
We're in a bubble. Oh.
Who's calling you? Reject. And I just want to speak to anyone who's watching this who struggles, and they're thinking to themselves, you know, food's always going to be an issue for me. So that's a story, right? And that's a story that we create because of experience, and it's totally warranted. Like, food was a struggle for me for a really, really long time. But once I started kind of like breaking that story down and realizing where it started and how I became to be this person, it was way more empowering to move forward from that space. It was like, oh, well, food doesn't have to be a struggle. It's almost like switching your thoughts, just like you look in the mirror and you're like, I hate my body. Just switching those to like, I love my body, which I do all the time and is really, really powerful, I'll just say. Yeah. It seems really cheesy and like, how's that going to work if I don't actually believe it? Trust me, you just start believing it. Totally. And then you realize when you're looking in the mirror and you're having those negative thoughts are coming from like images and ideas about what your body should look like from society and not from yourself. And when you can separate those two,
it's life-changing.
It's life-changing. So that's a side tangent. Yeah, but anyways, it's the same thing. It's like switching that thought to like, food is always a struggle for me, or eating healthy is a struggle for me, or I don't want to say dieting because I don't want to promote dieting, but you know, following some kind of meal plan that aligns with allergies that you have or whatever it is. Switching that to like a more empowering thought. Like, this is not a struggle for me. Like, I eat for joy, and I eat for energy and vitality. I think that those little changes will like start kind of shifting your subconscious to believe that you are really in control when it comes to food. Yeah,
I agree. I'm also really excited there's a class that I want to take, food relationship coaching, in our program, and I'm hoping to take it in the spring. And I want to get down to that level of, like you said, unpacking the story. Yeah. So once you do that, you can really see the key players. And I think for someone who's afraid to unpack it, that's totally normal. Like, that's okay. But if you can do it a little bit at a time, I think it's going to be so empowering because it allows you to sit back in the driver's seat. Yeah. Again. Totally. To just be able to be like, okay, now I'm aware of where this is coming from, and change and create a new story. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that as long as we're like struggling and restricting and dieting and always trying to like change and control the way we eat, like that, we're going to continue to run into problems. So like something that we've kind of hinted on that I really want to drive home right now is like restriction creates this like deprivation mentality.
Yeah, which should never be with food.
Yeah, that's just going to drive you insane. And so something that I've adapted, like honestly more so in the past 6 months than ever in my life, is just like allowing. And then I've noticed that, and I don't know if you, I'm sure you know something similar, when I allow myself to eat what I want when I want, which is like the cheeseburger once in a while, which is the french fries, which is the chips, which is all of those things, then naturally I gravitate more towards healthy food more often. Yeah. And it's like just this natural ebb and flow, this natural balance that has really kind of taken place literally since this summer, kind of. That is just like it's total freedom, you know?
Right. Because our bodies inherently know what you need, and to stay at that homeostasis of whatever that body weight is for you, our bodies know that. The more we trust that, of course, if you want to go eat a hamburger or candy or whatever, do it. But you just put the trust in yourself, and then you're going to balance out. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. I like don't budge on the scale. I go up and down the same 5 pounds all the time. And like I also really want to stop weighing myself. That's like the next goal. And
totally. I used to weigh myself all the time.
I do weigh myself a lot, and that's because I used to be really overweight. And I remember like last year I stopped weighing myself all year, and I gained 20 pounds and I was like, what the fuck? And then I had to lose it, and I was like, damn, that was really annoying. If I would have
you gained it after.
So I got rid of my scale, like the battery died, and I was like, man, fuck it. This is like 1.5 years, 2 years ago. So like after initially losing a bunch of weight, kept it off for years. Out of nowhere, had a really bad year. Was not happy with my job. Was like struggling in a lot of different areas. And I was also eating a lot at my job because I was working at a restaurant where we got like free meals, and there was like food that got messed up. So I was like eating constantly. I was obsessed with food, and I gained 20 pounds, and I got on the scale like a year later. I was like, oh shit, this is why all my jeans are tight. And then I just I slowly lost it again. I just went back to my normal routine. I tried to increase my happiness in other areas and like worked out for fun and joy, and just like slow. I think I did the whole 30, which was really great. And then lost it again. But now back to like my normal weight. Like I literally don't go up and down.
I don't think I've ever talked to you about. I have had a similar experience.
Yeah.
Like in high school, I weighed 150, and then I lost 30 pounds going to college because I didn't get the freshman.
It's usually supposed to be the opposite.
It's because I didn't get my parents get food all the time, and I was walking everywhere.
Starving.
But then my senior year of college, I gained the 30 pounds back again.
Yeah, it's like it can happen really fast.
And I was just like up and down, up and down.
There's got to be this balance when it comes to the scale and weighing yourself, where you can check in so that you're not like, I don't know, unknowingly putting on weight and also not be obsessed with it. But then at the same time, it's like if you just build these healthy habits into your life, like you shouldn't really have to check the scale. So jury's out for me on that one. I want to say throw the thing in the trash. Like if your value is not based on a number on the scale, and like looking at it doesn't change anything. For me, when I look at it, it's like still I'm going to eat the way I'm going to eat that day. Like whether or not I'm 2 pounds heavier than I was the other day. And I'm like, where did that 2 pounds come from? And what it does is it creates this anxiety. So it's like, I got on the scale yesterday and I was like 2 pounds heavier. And I was like, what did I eat yesterday? I'm like going through my brain. I'm like, what? I ate really normally. Oh, it must have been the salt. I was like, well, I've been working out a lot today, gained muscle. And it's just like, blah, blah, blah.
It's like you get trapped in your mind.
So that's like the negative part of it for sure. So I want to say like, throw the scale in the trash. But then I think back to the year where I gained 20 pounds because I wasn't checking the scale, and I'm like,
So there was more stress though there.
There was more stress, yeah. I mean, I wasn't being healthy. It wasn't just because I think I was kind of ignoring the scale because I was like, meh, doing what I want. So I don't know. Do what's right for you as long as you're not obsessing. Like I weigh myself pretty frequently, but if it doesn't ruin my day. I mean, sometimes there's like some thoughts that are like, why did this happen? And that's definitely something for me to work on. Like neither of us are perfect. Like we're on here sharing our stories and sharing things because I think Alicia's here.
Oh,
no, it's Meg.
Oh.
Hey Meg. We're on here sharing our stories because we're not perfect. And
oh hell no.
We're not even close. And so we just want to like be real with you, be realistic.
And take you guys like on a journey while we share our stories every week or so, just to know that like we're all in this together. Like there's no way to say that we have it all figured out. And I think just being able to have people come on here and feel like they're not alone in this crazy world gives some sort of support, obviously.
Yeah. This whole thing has been so fulfilling for us, just to know that what we're sharing is like, even if it affects one of you, like even one of you.
I also want to say thanks for tuning in last week, for anyone who tuned in last week. And
our moms, basically.
And
we got
Nicole watched, I don't know if she's here right now, but Nicole watched our whole episode.
I've got 3 viewers.
So,
and you've got 2.
You know.
Cool. Anyways, thank you. So do you want to say anything else?
I think,
hey Chelsea, personally, I recommend smashing the scale with a hammer. Just saying. I'm kind of aligned. I'm moving towards that.
You know what? We could like have a show where we just like.
I mean, that brings me anxiety, but like that's the problem, right? I'm like, no, I need my scale.
It could be therapeutic.
It could be super therapeutic, for sure.
No,
we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. We can wrap up.
Non-attachment.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're going to bring Chelsea on since she just popped in there and told me to smash my scale.
Yeah, Chelsea will be here with us in a couple weeks on the end of November.
End of November.
Yeah, we're actually going to be gone for, well, I won't be here. And I mean,
we're going to be on vacation. It's Jenny's birthday. Oh, yeah. The Crystals and Coffee Lab by myself. Okay.
Hey, why not? But I think just to wrap up, for me, I think food is such a powerful tool for self-development, and that's kind of why I mean that's a big portion of why I'm in the program, because for me that's kind of how I started on a lot of my self-development journey. Is once I became aware of the choices I was making with food, it made me so much more aware of everything else in my life too. So I think it's just important for us to recognize the power it has and how healing it can be, and fun and joyful. Like it shouldn't be like this bad thing.
Yeah, definitely. If food is something that's negative for you, don't be hard on yourself for it. Just like look at it as an area to kind of grow in, and to take some responsibility for. Like once we start taking responsibility for and stop blaming all these outside factors. Like for me, I was always like my genetics and like, wow, like poor me. And once I started taking responsibility for it, it became this like really engaging and beautiful process where it was something that I could like move through and grow from, and then in turn like help other people with. And I think that's what we both want to do and are like super excited to do, because it's like food issues are just so pervasive for women, and I'm just so passionate about helping people kind of break free from that and like find food freedom.
Food freedom, hashtag
food
freedom.
freedom.
That.
Oh, it's been,
Oh,
it's out there.
Oh, so
Also, there's a book. I actually haven't finished reading it, but it's called Women, Food, and God.
Oh,
have you read that yet?
I've heard of it.
So I'm gonna read that. Maybe we can read it and do another Facebook Live. Yeah. So it kind of talks about like how you relate to food is just like an outward expression of how you're relating to yourself. So,
right.
I mean, it's just
exactly.
Like,
and that's why I feel like it's such a good tool for self-development.
Totally. Yeah.
You know.
So you're like, I kind of stopped and started pausing when I'm like reaching for vices. So it's like a glass of wine or a cookie. I'm like, what am I not giving myself?
What are you
right
not
now?
giving? Yeah.
Like
you're filling it.
I'm filling it. So it's like I just joined a climbing gym, and that like this whole week
So
I've like
cool.
I feel like I've barely thought about food. I've eaten when I've been hungry, and I've been so full of joy, and like I've got this new hobby, and I'm exercising.
And you look really cute right now.
Thank you. You look really cute right now. I love your turtleneck. Like, what is that?
2 people said they like my turtleneck.
Oh yeah,
Steve Jobs.
Anyways,
Thanks, guys.
So,
I think that's it for today.
Love you.
Bye.
I'm looking at
Love
3
you.
screens of myself right now.